So it says, I wish China would come rescue us. We are stepped on in this country by our government like no other. I feel helpless sometimes and shame at the ills my government commits around the world. I love your content. Keep the... Okay. I really appreciate this comment, but I will speak from the heart and the mind. Okay. So first of all, thank you. Second of all, here's the truth. Okay. China ain't coming to save you. Us. China ain't doing that.
The comment about the idea of freedom that American is waiting for coming from China was left under this post right here. And she was impressed by the history of China and felt that they have a lot to learn from China, that their government has a lot to learn from China, but she didn't really speak of the government learning, but she had an idea of China coming to save them from the injustice in their country. For background, this creator right here has been going through books about Chinese history, and in this particular story that she's narrating right here, yeah, she's speaking of how Chinese way of governance and what they set as priority could be traced back in history. I will request you to like the video for recommendations, subscribe if you're new here. I bring to you compilations of TikTok and Red Note videos for educational purposes. I must emphasize on that. So let's take some notes.
Okay, so let's talk about this image here. So I'm currently reading a book all about Chinese history, a manga, and I'm at the very beginning. It's like 7 books. I'm only on chapter 3 of the first book, but it's all about like the early Chinese civilization. Okay, and right now we're like in Chinese mythology, and this man here is You Chao Shi. He is the, I guess, god of shelter, right? He teaches the people how to build shelter. And he's one of like many demigods in Chinese mythology. And this slide or screenshot really like impacted me, and I want to talk about it. So it says, 你以为大家追求的是不动产，其实大家要的是不动产. Okay, so if you don't speak Chinese, I'm gonna like explain. So, God of shelter. He says, you think people are chasing real estate or property. Actually, everyone wants stability or, stillness, and then production. Okay. And you're like, what the hell does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Okay. Let me tell you. So essentially, he's saying that once you have shelter, it gives you stability, stillness, less stress. There's very few worries one even in the modern world has when they don't have to worry about rent, mortgage, the roof over their head, right? 4 walls, a door that can lock. Okay? And once you have that, you will now produce. And what does this produce mean? Chan. I feel like it's the same word for like manufacturing and property and stuff like that. But if you look at it here, it's far deeper than just producing like labor. It's more like innovation, creating stuff like that. And so the reason why I feel like this slide really impacted me is because I'm a firm believer that housing, I don't care who you are, what you look like, what your beliefs are, everyone should have housing. Basic housing should be a guarantee, should be a human right. And this is Chinese mythology. This is like I don't know, 3,000 plus years ago, 5,000 years ago. And this is not even related to like China's later socialist movements, but it's kind of interesting because it just means that this was kind of in their psyche, even from their ancient mythology, that like housing as a guarantee would allow people to, I would say, thrive, like just think about it. Okay, let's just do a thought experiment. Let's say you live in your life as you are right now, and wherever you are living, you didn't have to pay rent, you didn't have to pay a mortgage, nothing. That housing, as it stands, is guaranteed. What would you do after that? Like, let's say you have the same job, and, like, cost of living is the same other than the home you live in. You don't have to pay rent. So whatever money you're making, you get to keep. Whatever you spend it on rent, you get to keep that. What would that change in your life? And not only just monetarily and financially, economically, but what would that change for you mentally? I think you would be far more relaxed, because let's just call it what it is. Rent and housing is 99.9% of the time your biggest expense, right? And so if you don't pay your rent, that is a big stressor, right? You can be on the street. Anybody want that? And yeah, all of this is to say that I feel like if housing were guaranteed, I'm talking about like clean, safe, basic housing, I think that should be a 21st century living standard. It should be guaranteed, and it should have clean water, electricity, and internet access. And I'm like, is that extreme? We're taught to believe as Americans free housing is extreme. But even talking to a lot of like Chinese people, 'cause, that's my job. I'll be talking to people. I was literally talking to one of my clients yesterday. He's from Heilongjiang. Heilongjiang is like the most northeast province, right? And it's bordering, I think it borders Russia for sure. And it probably borders like North Korea in the south of Heilongjiang, right? So if you want to imagine him. No, I don't know if whatever. Anyways, talking to him, and he's in his 50s. He's from Heilongjiang, and he was talking about his childhood growing up in the 80s, 70s, 80s in China, in Heilongjiang, right? And he's from a city called Jixi, which is West Chicken. West Chicken. Right. Anyway, he was like, in the 80s, like, his parents worked, they made about 500 renminbi per month, right? And I was like, okay, we're kind of like breaking it down. I was like, so what was the buying power of 500 renminbi at that time? He was like, we were okay. Like, we were really happy. We had all of the things we needed. But he then, because I'm like, this stuff just be like showing up in my life when I don't even ask about it, because I didn't even mention this, even though I had read about it like the day before. And I was like, okay, well, how much was like rent? And he was like, oh, we didn't pay rent. Everyone had a house. Not a house, but like, an apartment. He was a family of 4, mom, dad, brother, him. And he's like, yeah, so he remembers his dad saved up for maybe like 2 or 3 months of salary. Maybe, no, not 2 or 3 months of salary. Like, he didn't save for 2 or 3 months. He saved 2 or 3 months worth of salary to buy a colored TV. And that was a big deal. He was like saying, like, back then, if you had a bicycle, like, you was a hot shot. But like, even though they didn't make a lot of money, and his dad was actually like a factory manager that like his earning was only like 20, 30 R&B difference from the average worker. So he wasn't like, even though had a position, higher position, he wasn't, paid super inequitably compared to the workers. But he was like, yeah, like no one really worried about rent and stuff like that. Like that just wasn't a thing. Everyone, like at the very least, you had rent and you had food, or not rent, you had a house and you can get you some food. So we weren't like buying clothes and bags and stuff like that at that time. He's like, we were just very simple and happy, and even though we didn't make a lot of money. And I was like, bruh. And he said he misses that kind of lifestyle. They cannot save themselves. Someone, something, some entity has to come and wipe out the system. And that's not going to happen. Like, Americans have to save themselves. So, with that being said, how do you save yourself when you feel like you've lost hope? I think the only real tangible way that's really impactful, honestly, underrated, is decolonizing your mind. Learning more about the world, learning more about the history, learning more about or opening your eyes to the fact that the world around you is all a fucking lie. America itself is a lie. And it's a lie that's been perpetuated for, I don't know, globally like a century. Internally, you got to start looking at something in milk ain't clean, right? Like, that don't even sound right. Once you do that, I think the consciousness, it's very important. That's why they so, like, what is the word, critical about, and they're so afraid of people being quote unquote woke. Like, woke has become a slur to mean, oh, they're actually criticizing us. They don't see America as the best country in the world. Oh, that's a problem. And once you start doing that, tap the fuck in, that's when they become really afraid, But since that comment, I've been reading and doing some things, and China low-key is saving us because they are dismantling all the systems, like all of it, slow fucking burn. So I don't know how long this stuff takes. It's gonna take a while, but like all of the hegemony that the West has on the world, like let me give you an example. The aircraft industry, right? Right now, it's what is called a duopoly. And a duopoly is like a monopoly, but with two players, right? And those two players are Boeing, which is owned by the US, and Airbus, owned by France. And as it is right now, and how it's been, is there have been no competitors. If you have an airline, you are buying from Airbus or Boeing, period. So now there is a competitor on the market, right, for aircrafts, commercial aircrafts. And that is, it's called COMAC. China, no. Corporation of, look up what it is, okay? Something commercial aviation of China, like, whatever. I forgot exactly what it stands for, but you can look that up. So it's called COMAC, COMAC. And it's a state-owned enterprise that is, they've already manufactured, and they're using it's called the C919, or you say 919 aircraft. And right now it's like a short to medium haul aircraft. So they're using it domestically. The thing is, they are trying to proof of concept. They're not just like, oh, here, you get a plane, No. First, they've got entire strategies, right? Like a whole game plan. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 10, all the way down. So phase 1, of course, is like develop it, okay? Which they did. They made it. It's already in, it's already got fleets all throughout but it's domestic right now in China. So like if you take a China Eastern flight, China Southern flight, Air China flight domestically, it's probably going to be a C919 plane. But get this, right now, as it stands, it's not, even though you assemble the plane, a lot of the parts might come from elsewhere, right? Like the engine and blah, 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 blah. Okay. So they still got to buy some parts from other parts of the world, right? And a lot of those companies like US and EU. But they're like, all right, we are trying to wean ourselves off of the dependence of the West completely. 100%. We can't do it today. Probably can't do it tomorrow. But we are working our way towards there. So they are trying to, in tandem, while they are proving the concept of their commercial fleets, making sure it's safe, everything works domestically, they are simultaneously weaning themselves off of Western dependence for parts and making their own parts in-house. And once that is, on the up and up, then they're going to start exporting these planes in phases, okay? In phases to the world. And I think like phase 4 or 5 would be exporting to like Southeast Asian countries, like pretty close countries, we're talking about like Thailand, Laos, maybe Pakistan, because there's also got to be allies. And this is all under like the Belt Road Initiative, right? Okay, so then, they start using them, other countries start using them, right? Because like the thing is, having a reliance on Airbus and Boeing has been a big, has given the West leverage over a lot of countries, right? It's not just like war, like it's like, it's hard power, but it's also like, they monopolize and like, if, you want our planes? Well, then you need to, China's like, here's our planes. And what's crazy? So I'm like, damn, China, girl, China, I swear, this is why I have hope, because China's coming in. So they, not only will they be manufacturing these planes, but also they're going to have packages where you can get this, like, okay, deals, right? So let's just say like a Boeing airplane costs, I don't know how much it costs, okay? I'm just going to give a number, okay? Look up the real price. Let's say it costs $100 million, right? You get the plane, you got to take out a loan, you got to do blah, 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 blah. It's a whole thing. It's a thing. China's like, okay, well, our planes cost, I don't know, $75 million. And we'll give you loans, but also we'll give you a deal that if you buy 10 planes from us, we'll build you a runway or we'll build you an airport. So it's like infrastructure on top, like included in this package, which is unprecedented because the West really don't be doing that unless it's within their interests. But it's like China's like, okay, let's get you, you know what I mean? It's like really developing the world. Like they are really developing the world. And I think the short haul plane is tried and true right now, operating domestically. I think by 2030, maybe even sooner, it'll probably be global. And then by 2030, maybe 2035, within the next 10 years, they'll have this other plane, which is the big one. Because I think the one I'm talking about right now, the C-19 can only hold like a little bit less than 200 passengers. It's like 150 passengers, maybe. The next one, which is those big ass planes with the 777 Boeing, whatever, you know what I'm talking about, 787. They're manufacturing, or they're working on making one of those, right, in partnership with Russia. And they're still working out the kinks with that one. Like, okay, girl, hopefully she'll be ready by like 2030. Like, give us some time. But all that is to say, China is on their slow burn hype. They are actually decolonizing the world by building it. Mutually beneficial development, Okay, and if you look more into it, you will see that it is going to be drastically loosening the grip that the West has on the global South specifically. And yeah, so this is definitely the U.S. influence is waning. Is that the word? Waning? Deteriorating? Fading out? So we're going to be seeing a lot in the next 10 years, especially since like the US has not tapped in and was like, oh shit, let's come correct. Let's adapt a little bit. They're like, no, let's double down and stay stupid. And let's see how that works. But it ain't gonna work. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, look at this rain. I gotta get up and get something to eat. It's Saturday. I wanted to go to a pool party, but it's raining. You'll hear that? I ain't gonna go nowhere. I'm gonna stay right here. I'm gonna make me some eggs and some toast and watch The Bear. And that show is insufferable. I don't know why I'm watching it, but I'm gonna keep watching. Okay, I hope y'all like this take.